Okay, so picture this for a moment. Ancient India. There's this empire, right? Once really mighty, but now it's teetering, right on the very brink. Its trade routes cut off. Cities are falling. It's just this feeling of, well, decline, despair even. And it really makes you wonder what happens. What happens when an empire just feels stifled?
That's a great question. And today, we're doing a deep dive into someone who completely turned that around. Gautamiputra Satakarni. People often call him the Lion of the Deccan.
Right, the Lion of the Deccan. And it's just amazing when you think about the situation he walked into.
Yeah.
How could one person possibly not just stop the rot, but actually revive a whole empire? An empire described as humbled.
Exactly. And the sources we have are just fascinating for piecing this together. We're talking ancient coins, Satavahana inscriptions, especially this amazing eulogy from his mother, Gautami Balashri, and even royal lists from the Puranas.
So our mission here is to get under the surface, not just the what happened, but the how. How did he pull it off against such odds? What were the sort of surprising details?
And what can his story maybe tell us about leadership, especially when things look really bad?
Okay, let's start there. Paint the picture for us. This bleak landscape he inherited, it sounds like the empire was really, really struggling.
Oh, absolutely. You're spot on. The Satavahana Empire was in, dire straits, losing land, losing those vital trade connections. And there was huge external pressure, the main threat. These guys called the Western satraps. They were powerful foreign rulers. And their big leader at the time, Nahapana, he'd grabbed huge crucial areas. Think Gujarat, Malwa, Western Maharashtra, basically choking the Satavahanas in the west.
Wow. So it wasn't just losing some border regions. These were key territories.
Key territories, exactly. And it meant losing important cities, too.
Yeah, you mentioned cities falling. Which ones? That must have been a huge psychological blow.
Immense. Think about major centers like Bharuch, a huge port, Nashik, Ujjain, all falling into enemy hands. So you can see the empire visibly shrinking. It really must have felt like they were maybe just becoming a footnote in history.
Was there any fight left in them at all? Or was it just, waiting for the end?
Well, that's the thing. It looked bad, really bad. But there must have been some resilience there, some spark left. What they needed was a leader, someone who could rally that spirit. And, that leader turns out to be Gautamiputra.
And it starts with his name, right? Which is quite unusual.
Incredibly unusual for the time. Gautamiputra, meaning son of Gautami. Using the mother's name like that, a matronymic, it's basically unparalleled in ancient India.
Son of Gautami. So his mother, Gautami Balashri, must have been quite a figure herself.
Oh, absolutely. The sources don't just portray her as, the king's mother waiting in the wings. She's described as this towering presence, a patron of memory, a guardian of legacy, maybe even involved in shaping policy. She seems really central.
So this naming thing, this matronymic, was it just about identifying him, or did it signify something deeper, maybe about women's roles, or was it a political statement?
That's a really interesting point. It didn't mean it was a matriarchy. We should be clear about that. The society was still patriarchal. But it definitely elevated the queen mother's status publicly. It helped distinguish princes, especially when kings like his father had multiple wives from different important families. That was practical.
Okay.
But it also projected this sense of maybe stability and ancient lineage through the maternal line. In a crisis, that could be a really powerful symbol to rally around.
And she left her own words behind, didn't she, in those inscriptions?
Yes, the Nashik cave inscriptions. Commissioned by her, they're crucial. It's her voice, literally preserved in stone. And she talks about his dharma, his righteousness, his duty, his victories, but also her pride in him. It's quite personal.
What does she call him?
She doesn't just say king. She calls him a dharmic warrior and, significantly, the restorer of Aryavarta.
Aryavarta, meaning?
Basically, the traditional heartland of the Indo-Aryans. So she's framing him as someone who brought back the glory days, restored tradition and order to that core land.
Yeah.
A huge claim.
Okay, so the empire's in trouble. He's got this unique identity linked to his powerful mother. What does he actually do militarily? He can't just rely on names and inscriptions?
No, he acts decisively. He launches this really direct strategic campaign right at the heart of the Western satrap power base. No messing around.
And the results?
Honestly, it's one of the most dramatic turnarounds you'll find in Indian political history. He smashes Nahapana, defeats him, reclaims the whole Western Deccan region.
That quickly. A complete reversal.
A stunning reversal. But maybe the coolest evidence, the most visceral proof, isn't even written down.
What's that?
It's the coins. Archaeologists found silver coins originally issued by Nahapana,
Okay.
but they'd been restruck, stamped over with Gautamiputra Satakarni's own name and symbols.
Wow. So literally erasing the old ruler and putting his mark on top?
Exactly. It's not just about putting new money out there. It's this incredibly powerful symbolic act. It's conquest, it's erasure, it's saying loud and clear, we are back. This is ours now. A real assertion of pride.
That's amazing. It's like tangible propaganda.
Yeah.
More than just winning battles. It's about winning the narrative, right? Stamping your authority right onto the currency.
Precisely. A psychological blow as much as a military one. And the inscriptions back this up. They boast that he uprooted the Sakas, Yavanas, and Pahlavas.
Who are they?
Basically, powerful foreign groups who had invaded or settled in parts of India. Indo-Scythians, Indo-Greeks, Indo-Parthians. The text suggests he beat back a whole confederacy of these external threats. It paints a picture of him restoring the Satavahana family's glory against all these different enemies.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then there's that claim in the Nashik inscription, the Prashasti,
Hey.
about his horses drinking water from the three oceans.
Ah, yes. The
Yeah.
Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean.
That sounds like he conquered basically the entire subcontinent. Is that real?
It sounds incredibly impressive, doesn't it? And it definitely implies dominance far to the south, maybe even over powers like the Cholas and Pandyas. But most historians are a bit cautious here. They tend to see this as, well, a standard literary flourish, a poetic way to praise the king's power, common in these royal eulogies.
So more bragging rights than literal geography.
Probably. It's a grand claim, symbolizing vast power, but there isn't really any other solid evidence, archaeological or textual, to confirm Satavahana conquests that far south during his reign.
Right. It highlights that challenge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorting the epic poetry from the historical facts on the ground.
Always the challenge. And history rarely gives us neat endings. Even after these huge wins, there are hints, suggestions in some sources.
Oh, like what?
Well, that maybe later in his reign he might have lost some ground again, possibly to a group called the Kardamikas. There's mention of a rival king, Rudradaman I, defeating a Satakarni king twice.
Was it Gautamiputra himself?
That's the debate. Was it Gautamiputra in his later years, or was it his son and successor? Scholars disagree. It just shows how fragmented the evidence can be sometimes. Keeps us historians busy.
Never a dull moment. Okay, so beyond the battlefield, what kind of ruler was he? We've got this image of a warrior, but what about statesmanship?
Well, that's just as important. He definitely had a clear vision for society, a strong commitment to what's called Varna Dharma.
Meaning?
Basically, upholding the traditional social order, the caste system, and revitalizing Vedic Brahmanical traditions. He even took the title Ika Brahmana.
Ika Brahmana, what does that mean?
It's debated, could mean the peerless Brahmin or the sole protector of Brahmins, or maybe even the proud champion of Brahmanism.
Yeah.
It clearly signals his support for that tradition.
Okay, so restoring tradition, supporting Brahmanism, that sounds quite orthodox.
It does, but here's where his statesmanship gets really interesting and maybe quite nuanced, because alongside that Brahmanical focus, he showed remarkable inclusivity. He didn't stop supporting Buddhist monasteries, for instance.
Really? So he supported both Vedic traditions and Buddhism?
Exactly. He patronized Buddhist sites, supported merchant guilds, allowed for art and religious expression across different sectarian lines. It wasn't an either situation.
That's quite a sophisticated balancing act, especially for a ruler trying to consolidate power after a period of chaos.
It really is. We see evidence of royal support for Buddhist cave complexes and monasteries in places like Nashik, Karle, Kanheri, Junor, big important centers. This wasn't just about being tolerant. It seems like a pragmatic way to unify a diverse kingdom, and it set a kind of template for later rulers in the Deccan.
And administration. Did he reform how the empire actually ran day to day?
Yes, he seems to have put a lot of effort into structure, setting up clear administrative divisions called aharas. Each ahara was governed by an officer and a matya. He also seems to have formalized different types of settlements, distinguishing between cities, nagara, market towns, nigama, and villages.
Gamma. So building a proper bureaucratic framework, not just conquering, but organizing.
Organizing, creating hierarchy, balancing central control with allowing some local autonomy. It suggests he was thinking about long-term stability.
And didn't he use Prakrit in his inscriptions?
He did, yes. Which is significant. Prakrit was more of a common language, the language of the people, compared to the more elite Sanskrit.
So speaking directly to the masses, in a way.
Exactly. It shows a kind of populism, maybe, but also just pragmatism. reaching the widest audience. And remember that Nashik inscription from his mother. It paints this picture of him as a really benevolent ruler.
And so?
It says his joys and sorrows were the same as those of his citizens, that he disliked destroying life, even that of the enemies who offended him. It even compares him to legendary heroes like Rama and Arjuna from the epics.
Wow, that's quite the portrait. A warrior king, but also compassionate and connected to his people.
It's certainly the image his mother wanted to project, and it speaks volumes about the kind of ideal ruler they envisioned.
Okay, so strong military, clever governance. What about the economy? Did he manage to fix that too? You mentioned lost trade rights earlier.
Yes, and this was absolutely crucial. His capital, Pratisthana, modern Paithan, seems to have become a really vibrant center again under his rule.
What kind of trades?
The big one was reviving those links with the Roman Empire. That seems to have bounced back significantly.
How do we know? More inscriptions.
Even better, actually. Archaeology. We find Roman gold coins turning up in the Deccan from this period. Hard currency, hard evidence of trade flowing again.
That's fantastic. So you can picture ships loaded with goods.
Definitely. Sailing from ports like Sappara and Bharuch, which he likely reclaimed or secured, connecting India, westwards, Egypt, Arabia, the Mediterranean. These weren't just local exchanges. The global connections were back online.
What kind of goods are we talking about?
Well, from India, think spices, pearls, high-quality cotton textiles, ivory things the Roman world desired. And coming back the other way, Roman gold, wine, maybe luxury glass, and other manufactured items.
So it wasn't just symbolic victories. He restored the actual economic engine of the empire.
Absolutely. It was the lifeblood. Getting that trade flowing again would have brought immense prosperity and really cemented his revival.
So as he got older, what was his focus? Did he keep fighting?
It seems like in his later years, his main focus shifted towards consolidation, making sure the gains stuck, and preparing the ground for his successor. He seems to have groomed his son, Vashishthaputra Pulamavi, quite carefully.
So Pulamavi inherited a going concern.
Very much so. He inherited a realm that was stable, prosperous, and, importantly, united. Quite different from what Gautamiputra himself had started with.
So Gautamiputra's end wasn't some dramatic fall from grace.
Not at all, based on what we know. He seems to have died not as some tragic figure, but as a successful architect of revival. He finished the job, essentially.
That's quite a legacy in itself.
No.
Did his influence last? Did later rulers look back at him?
Oh, definitely. His influence was pretty profound and long-lasting. Later on, the great Gupta Empire, further north, seems to have adopted some of his ideas about dharmic rule and imperial structure. They saw his model as effective.
And closer to home, in the Deccan.
Even more so. Big southern dynasties that came later, the Vakatakas, the Chalukyas, the Rashtrakutas, they all seem to have drawn inspiration from his template. The idea of a powerful, sovereign Deccan empire. He really laid the groundwork for that. His reign became a kind of blueprint for southern imperial ambition.
So his ideas echoed down the centuries. What about physically? Art, architecture. Did he leave a mark there too?
Yes, absolutely. You can see his legacy, or at least the legacy of his era's patronage, in those cave complexes we mentioned, Nashik, Karle, Kanheri. The inscriptions, the sculptures found there, they reflect that period of stability and his, well, quite open support for artistic creation across different religious groups. It points to a real cultural flourishing that he helped enable.
It's just incredible, isn't it? Thinking about this figure from, nearly 2,000 years ago, and how his name, his story, still pops up.
It really is. You find him, of course, in historical texts and academic arguments, but also his name echoes in regional folklore in the Deccan. He turns up in epic poems in Telugu, in folk ballads, and believe it or not, there was even a major Tollywood film made about him just a few years ago in the 21st century.
No way, a blockbuster movie.
A big one, yeah. It just shows how his legend endures, crossing from ancient inscriptions to modern pop culture. It has real staying power.
So he wasn't just a king then, he was more like an idea.
That's a great way to put it. An idea that, yes, an empire could actually be reborn, that identity could be fought for and reclaimed, that even when things look hopeless, from those embers of loss, a real fire could be rekindled.
A truly remarkable figure, the Lion of the Deccan indeed.
And maybe that leaves us, and you listening, with something to think about. Are there figures or movements today, maybe, that embody that same kind of spirit, that idea of reclaiming identity, of rebuilding, of kindling a fire when things seem difficult? And thinking about Gautamiputra's long shadow, what can we learn about the long-term impact when someone achieves that kind of vision?